Good day, Internet. In this video, we're going to bring this channel back to its roots, and we're going to be doing some welding out in the snow. We are building a crash bar for the Speed 3 that will support my front mount intercooler. Note, front mount intercooler. So this is a Treadstone TR8. Very excited to get this mounted onto the car. And where it actually attaches is like that. So different intercoolers use different attachment methods, but this one uses what looks like an M8, I'm guessing, or maybe an M10, probably an M8, on each side. So basically, we are going to be creating... Let me just show you what we're going to be creating. Alright, so whenever you Google Mazdaspeed crash bar, there are a bunch of companies that make these things, but the problem is that they're $380 US, $255... Okay, so let's say I bought this. $255 USD to CAD, 366 Canadian dollars, and then there's almost certainly going to be duty on that, so it'll be $400, $500 by the time I get one. We're going to make one instead, and we're going to steal JBR's design. So this, how can I make this bigger? This is what we're making, okay? Basically exactly this. So I have already fabricated this. So instead of doing this as a bend, I'm actually doing that, and that as separate pieces of metal, and then I'm going to weld them together. And I've also purchased this bar. I got a 1 1/4 inch size square with 1/8 inch walls, so it's pretty beefy. And yeah, I pretty much have all of this stuff. I just need to weld it together. So let's go bolt it onto the car and see where things line up. Alright, well, I've just been informed that this is going to take longer than I thought it would because that one is snapped off in there. I already knew about that. That one also snapped off, which isn't part of the crash bar, so I don't care right this second. That one also snapped off, but that one's fine. So these are riv nuts, and the back side of them looks like that. So I'm not sure exactly what my plan is. I definitely need this one. I have sort of access to the back side. I couldn't really put a nut there if I wanted to drill it all the way out. I don't know what my plan is. I'm probably going to drill that out as centered as I possibly can and just see what happens from there. Maybe I could make this an M8. I think this is an M6 right now. Yeah, it looks like there's room for me to drill that out and turn it into an M8. What do you guys think? That's totally gonna work. Alright, I've decided that I'm not spending the rest of the entire afternoon worrying about that. I can 100% do what I wanted to do today, getting everything in place and tack welded without that bolt being installed. So it can go F itself and I'll worry about it later. Alright, step one is these things. I fabricated these over the last day or two, and pretty simple. It's about 3mm plate that has these big old holes in it, and I copied the hole size from the original crash bar, and I'm glad that I did because they're oversized and they give you a little bit of leeway if your stuff is off or your measurements aren't 100% perfect. And things are fitting so far, yay! I don't have the right bolts for this yet, so this is kind of weird. See how this does an S-curve? The aftermarket crash bars you can get all deal with this in a different way. Some of them only have 2 bolts, which is kind of crappy. What most of them do is what I'm going to do. And you put a spacer here, and then this is flat, and it just makes your life 8 million times easier. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do for a spacer yet. Potentially some nuts? Not sure. But for right now, we don't need to have that figured out. I'm just using this bolt, which is not even the right pitch. But that doesn't matter. It's good enough for me to verify that everything is centered and going to work. So right now, I'm happy with the position of this and of that one. And all I did to make sure that they were somewhat flat and level is I grabbed this thing and I checked to see where the car is. Why isn't that reading the same as it did earlier? Do I have crap on the bottom of it? So that's how level the car is, sitting where it's sitting right now. It's a little bit sloped that way. So this guy, same angle. this guy. Same angle. So I'm happy with the position of that and that. Time to figure out this thing and this thing. So what these plates do is they prevent the radiator from doing the floppy. This whole thing right now is only attached by that bolt and that bolt. I've actually seen people omit this part whenever I just saw one guy make a YouTube video where he had 2 bolts here and he didn't even attach to this at all. So bro, you're just gonna leave your radiator doing this? That ain't no good. So we're doing it the right way. The right and cheap way. Here are those. Let's see how I did. Nice. Nice. All right. All right, that wasn't too bad. So I didn't realize that up here it's actually hitting, but it's not enough that it's going to be a problem, I don't think. I'm glad that I made all of these holes oversized, so that is going to work. The hole is a little bit oval and weird and too big, but who cares? And yeah, so to make sure that these are nice and straight, what I'm doing is checking that right there. I already checked that this is straight. I haven't touched it, it's still bolted on. And look at that. I thought that I cut this out wrong, but it turns out that I'm just a dingus. I can't really do it with one hand right now, but yeah. Because this whole thing is moving. Maybe I'll grab the jack and throw it underneath there so that this is in the right place. Or something. Huh? 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 Alright, time for everybody's favorite. Giles welding out in the wet, slushy snow. I'm just going to be tack welding this out here, and then once it's nice and tacked, I'll be bringing it probably to my parents' place, and I will weld it in their garage. I'm not going to weld it on top of my hardwood floor this time because I value my house not getting burned down, and also I have a cat now. Honestly, I might just weld this whole thing right now. It's in a very convenient location. Yeah, honestly, welding this on the car is not going to be bad. The only concern is melting this plastic thing. I can see that I'm melting it with those tack welds. So, I'm definitely not going to do this. But I might be able to get away with doing this on the car. I don't know, we'll see if this plastic starts smoldering, but we're going to give that a try. Alright, I'd call that a success. Not my worst or best welds, but they will hold. You can see right here, it was melting the plastic whenever I did the tack welds, so we will only do tack welds there. But over here, I did a full pass on one side. The other side I'll get later. But yeah, it looks like it'll hold. So now, the next thing that we need to tack before we're done tacking is we got the old 1 1/4 inch square tube. So here's something to talk about. Where do I want to mount the bar to my bracketry? I'm thinking, so a lot of the ones that you see online that you can buy the bar is right in the middle here. And looking at, okay, so I got a new grill for this, and I'm trying to align the intercooler with the new grill. So I've been looking at a picture online of where the crash bar is versus the grill, and long story short, instead of putting it here, I think I want to put it here, just a little bit up higher. I guess I could also put it on top, but if I put it on top, it would have to be back a little bit. And I'm pretty sure... What is this thing? What is this? And why is it in my way? And can I move it? Is this like the outside air temperature sensor? That's my guess. It's kind of in the way. I might just miss it, but basically, I could put it here, or I could put it, what I think I'm gonna do is put it there instead of there. So this is the grill that we got. It's right there. And this is the factory crash bar. So the top of it is like right there. So basically the top of the factory crash bar stops being where the grill is open. So if I were to put the bar in between the bolts, the intercooler top would be like right there. And that's not really what I want. The bottom part of it would be covered up by the grill. I want it to be fully front and center. So if we put the bar basically right there, that should get us where we want to be. So there's the explanation as to why I'm putting it where I'm putting it. Here's something that might be worth talking about. One of my favorite tactics for cutting things that are not that long is to do this. Is to take the hacksaw from Milwaukee, better than a regular reciprocating saw because it's small and you can actually see what you're doing. And you clamp it in the vise such that the cut that you want to do is right there, and you just ever so slow, you use the vise as a guide, and you have to make sure to hold just a little bit of downwards pressure like that so that it doesn't start wandering upwards. You just keep a little bit of downwards pressure, and yes, you have to not care about your vise too much if you do this, but I've done this with this vise a million times, and it's really not that worn from me doing it. Yeah, this works awesome. I've never seen anybody do it before but me. See? Nice, straight, flat cut, and it barely required any of my brain cells. Using this was a little bit ambitious for cutting something that damn thick, but these Diablo blades are good. I'm not even that embarrassed. Still got to do the other side. But that ain't teabag. It is starting to rain. I better do this quickly. But check that out. That's a little bit close. Whenever I weld that, the weld might get into the washer area. But we got that for that. And over here as well, made sure that's flush. Tried to leave like 5 mil in between the washer and the whatchamacallit, approximately. So yeah, time to give this the zippity zap. And then I can remove this and take it to somewhere where it can be welded fully. And then I have to do this, which will be pretty easy. We'll figure that out after this is on there. And yeah. Ta-da. Eh? Is that or is that not looking reminiscent of a crash bar for a Mazdaspeed3? I think it is. Alright. I'm gonna throw this in the truck, throw the welder in the truck, and go weld it up at my rent's place. I was fully planning on doing this inside at my parents' garage, but it's just way too nice of a day today to not just do it outside. So I'm using this absolutely destroyed camping table from Princess Auto. This is probably going to be the last thing that it does for me. I accidentally drove over it with the truck and mangled it all to shit. But this is the last thing it's going to do for me. I did a practice run right here just to make sure that I sort of knew what I was doing and to get my muscle memory going. And yeah, I'm feeling confident enough that that is going to hold. So time to get zapping. I'd say that went pretty well, if I do say so myself. Some of these welds are actually pretty juicy. That's probably like the best one right there. Yeah, not too embarrassed at all. So I'm not going to be grinding any of these. The only one that we ground flush is that one because we had to, because this has to be flat against that. But it's got a big juicy fillet on the backside, fillet, however you say it. And yeah, we're done welding this thing. And it went pretty well. Let's go. So next step, bolt this to car. Well, there's two different ways that I could go right now. Could worry about attaching the intercooler. That's the fun part. I'm probably going to do that. And then there's a little bit that needs to go up here to attach it to that part of the car on the radiator sport thing. Next day, Happy New Year's, everybody. It is not nearly as warm out today as it was yesterday. But now we're working on these things that actually support the front mount intercooler. So hopefully these are in the right place. You can see my little scribe right there and there that mark where the intercooler mounting point actually is. And yeah, let's get this zapped. I was like 2 seconds away from beginning welding this, and I had the random urge to do a sanity check, and I'm so glad that I did, because this one was correct, but this one, that is a rogue mark. I don't know what that is, but I thought that was the mark that I made, but it actually wasn't. It's actually that extremely cryptic scribbling. So I moved it back. Thankfully, we caught our mistake before I welded anything. And I grabbed the intercooler and I held it up in between here, and we have like the perfect amount of clearance so that it actually fits in there, but there's also not a gap really. So now it's time. I'm gonna make sure that these are nice and square, and then we're gonna give it the zap. All right, and this is the last piece of the puzzle, this little tab right here that goes to this thing. And what is this, the purpose of this? I'm not really sure, but I don't need to understand it, I just need to mount to it. Alright, I stopped recording for a little bit, but we got this last thing done. And I cleaned up all of the surfaces for paint. And then I painted it last night. And I stuck a sticker on it, just for fun. And yeah, so I think I'm going to give this thing like one more day to dry, because the paint is still not completely set. But right now what I'm working on is, remember when I showed you on the car, the frame rail where it ends, it's like an S? Well, I made this flat, and what I need are spacers that are exactly the right depth, which happens to be 21 millimeters. So I was not sure how I was going to find such a spacer or create such a spacer, but I think I figured it out. So I went to Princess Auto and I just started walking around looking for ideas on how I could make the spacer. And I was walking through the plumbing aisle and I grabbed myself some 3/8 inch by 3 inch nipples for plumbing, which are made out of steel. and they're approximately the right size. They're nice and thick, and unfortunately they didn't have longer than this, so I just got 2 of them. It was only like 10 bucks, and I need to cut this so that it's exactly 21 millimeters. I should be able to get 2 out of each one of these, and I need 4, so we should be good. Time to do some chopping. Mint. Alright, this is the current working situation. I've extended the door of the tent so that I'm not getting snowed on right now. And I was planning on painting these after I clean up the rust, but I think it's kind of a fool's errand unless you're actually gonna like take this apart and clean every last little bit of the rust and then paint it, because, you know, there's overlaps and stuff that you can't really get to. And it's cold out right now, and I really shouldn't be painting anything. It will not cure properly. So I just cleaned up cleaned up a bunch of the rust, and then hit it with a plethora of undercoating. And this is going to get sandwiched in between the crash bar and it. So I think that undercoating is probably going to stay there forever. It's not in a location that it's ever going to get washed off. So that's fine. Also, yeah, my AC condenser along the bottom here is pretty effed up. But I refuse to let this project snowball any further, and I also refuse to pay for somebody to refill my AC right now, because that's going to be expensive. I'm going to leave it. All of this in the middle is completely mint, because this factory crash bar used to be there, and that's basically where the intercooler is going to be. So if this is a problem, we'll fix it later, but I ain't fixing it right now. The top is reasonable. Looks about right for having 200,000 kilometers on it. But yeah, down here, these are mangled. Just mangled. Alright, it looks friggin' awesome. My M8 bolt went in there perfectly. It's snugged up, no problem. And you see some of my fingerprints on there because I was trying to coat the bolts with undercoating. I really don't want this stuff to rust, at least for a little bit. I even took a can of undercoating with the big, long 360-degree nozzle, and I went all the way down this tube, and I went pshh, and then I did it from the other side. So hopefully this thing doesn't rust from the inside out. And yeah, I think I've done my due diligence as far as rust protection goes. I kind of screwed something up, and we're just going to roll with it. You can't really see from here, but the size of this spacer thing that I've made is extremely close to the size of this bolt hole. The hole is oversized. Everything's aligned such that you can't see the actual holes right now, but this is like, if you press this with enough force, I bet it would actually go inside this plate. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, some of the kits that you can buy online don't even bolt this up at all, so I'm just not going to let it slow me down. It's fine. Yeah, can you see on that one? Yeah, you can see the hole. I was not imagining that that was going to be so close. If I wanted to fix that properly, I could take each one of these spacers and grind it down the same width as a washer that I could put in there that would, you know, make it so that it's not screwed up like that. But I think we're just going to ignore it. It's good enough. I'm happy with it. And I want to go bolt the front mount intercooler onto it because I want to take some pictures and see what it looks like, and I'm excited. Yay. As expected, it looks absolutely sick. And now I can start thinking about my intercooler piping. I can't fully figure out the intercooler piping until, you know, there's an engine in there, but I can at least start thinking about, there is a bend that it does right there, and I bought a kit of 2.5-inch aluminum intercooler piping bits from eBay for cheap. You can spend a shitload of money on intercooler piping if you just buy the first thing that you see. There are like $800 kits that are just the piping for these cars. It is ridiculous. So I am figuring this out myself, using a kit off of eBay to start with anyway. And I have a feeling that this radiator setup is going to be too thick. So I was thinking about ending this video right here, but why don't we go inspect that right now just to see. We are live figuring out if this is going to require modification. Ooh, that fits better than I thought it would. I thought that the middle radiator bit would be way too thick, but no, it's in the right neighborhood. I'm honestly looking forward to figuring out this piping and this routing. It's going to be kind of fun for me. I'll probably have to move the horn. And yeah, that just makes it. It's can you see this? If it were to continue perfectly, no, let me align it properly. It would be like there. Is there enough room for... Yeah, I think we can make that work. Let me try and continue holding it in the right place. It's close, but it's better than I thought it was going to be, honestly. It ends up like... Am I holding this right still? Not really. 1 second. There. That is where it will go. It has got like 3/4 of an inch, half an inch between it and the whatchamacallit. Ooh, yeah, that's tight. That's tight, but we might be able to make it work. Anyway, better than I thought it would be. And I think that's it for this video. I want to leave it to just the crash bar, and in the next video, I have no idea what we'll be doing. Because right now, I'm waiting for the head and the block to come back from the machine shop. So whenever that stuff comes back, then we'll be able to start actually bolting stuff onto it and start rebuilding. Because right now, I'm just working on all these little side projects. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for my stuff to come back. So if you made it this far in the video, thank you for watching, and take it easy. I'll see you next time.